The deep silence of space surrounded the orbiting research station. It floated above a glowing blue planet like a silver seed in an endless ocean. Inside, bright lights hummed, screens flickered, and machines whispered quietly. This was the home of Lyra, one of the youngest alien scientists of her kind. She was curious, proud, and always searching for answers that others feared to ask. Lyra belonged to a race called the Virelians. They were tall, silver-skinned beings with glowing eyes that shifted colors with emotion. Their science was advanced, their knowledge vast, and their curiosity endless, but even among them, humans were a mystery that no one fully understood. Today was special for Lyra for the first time. She was going to meet a real human face to face, not just through data, not just through holograms, a real living, breathing human stood waiting in her lab. His name was Captain Ryan Cole, a strong-built man with calm eyes and a confident smile. He was sent by Earth as part of an exchange program between the two species, to share knowledge, culture, and perhaps to test limits no one had dared before. When Lyra entered the room, her steps were slow and cautious. Ryan turned to look at her, his expression curious but friendly. "Welcome, Dr. Lyra," he said with a smile. His voice deep and steady. Lyra tilted her head slightly, studying him like a specimen under light. "So this is a human male," she murmured, her eyes glowing a faint green of interest. Ryan chuckled softly. "And you must be the alien scientist who thinks we're weak." Lyra blinked in surprise. "Not weak," she said, "just limited." Her tone was cold, but her curiosity was real. She had read countless reports saying humans were emotional, chaotic, and unpredictable. But seeing one up close made her wonder if those words were enough. "Please sit," she said, pointing to a glass chair surrounded by scanning lights. Ryan sat without hesitation, calm as if he had done this 1,000 times. Lyra began activating her equipment, beams of light scanning his body, heart rate, muscle density, cellular recovery speed. The data filled her screen. At first, everything seemed normal, then her eyes widened. "These readings," she whispered, "they're off the scale." Ryan smiled faintly. "You sound surprised." Lyra frowned. "Human bodies are not designed for this level of endurance." Ryan shrugged. "Maybe you haven't met enough humans yet." Her curiosity deepened. The scanner continued to hum, revealing data that made no sense to her. His stamina markers were higher than most alien soldiers. His regenerative cells worked faster than her database predicted, and his nervous system remained calm even under constant scanning pressure. Lyra folded her arms, confused. "This shouldn't be possible." Ryan looked at her and said casually, "Maybe your machines can't measure everything." Her eyes glowed brighter. "You mean there's more?" He grinned. "There's always more when it comes to humans." She leaned closer, her voice almost teasing. "You claim so much strength, but biologically speaking, humans are fragile." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Is that so?" Lyra smiled lightly. "Of course you can't possibly mate that often. Your bodies would break." Ryan's grin widened. "You really think so?" The tone of the room shifted. Her words had been spoken as a fact, but his reaction turned it into a challenge. Lyra's analytical mind sparked with sudden curiosity. She leaned back slightly, her tone now testing. "Prove it then." "Captain," she said quietly, "show me what makes humans so different." Ryan didn't flinch, his calm never breaking. "Be careful what you ask for, Doctor," he replied, his voice deep and confident. Her heart rate monitor picked up a faint rhythm increase, but not his. Hers. For the first time, Lyra felt something strange. A mix of confusion, admiration, and the beginning of fascination. Outside the station window, the blue planet glowed brighter. The stars shimmered as if watching their conversation unfold. In that moment, two very different worlds stood face to face. A human filled with quiet confidence, an alien filled with scientific pride and curiosity. Neither knew that this meeting would change how the galaxy saw humans forever. Neither realized this small lab would become the place where old science died, and where a new kind of understanding would begin. Lyra thought she was studying a human, but soon she would learn. Humanity was studying her too. As Ryan stood up and stretched, the lights flickered. Lyra watched every motion, noting the strength, the control, the calmness. Her voice came out softer now, almost respectful. "Perhaps I was wrong," she whispered. Ryan smiled without looking back. "Every alien says that," he said, walking toward the window. "And then we prove them right." Lyra's eyes followed him, glowing brighter than before. Her mind filled with questions. What made humans so powerful, so unpredictable, so endlessly alive? She knew the next phase of her research would not be about data anymore. It would be about understanding the very essence of humanity itself. Outside, the stars watched silently. The universe was about to learn something new, and it all began here, with one alien girl, and one human who refused to be ordinary. The soft hum of machines filled the air as morning light from the nearby planet cast a gentle blue glow through the station windows. Lyra had barely slept, her mind restless with thoughts about the strange human named Ryan. His scans from yesterday made no sense. They broke every biological rule she had learned since childhood. No Varelian, no species she knew could recover that fast or hold such energy within one body. Now, standing in her lab again, Lyra adjusted her instruments with trembling hands. She told herself it was excitement, not nervousness. Ryan entered the room quietly, his uniform half unzipped, his expression calm and ready. "Morning, Doctor," he said with that same small smile that irritated and fascinated her. "You're early," Lyra replied, pretending to focus on her data screens. "I don't need much sleep," he said casually. Lyra glanced up. "That's another strange thing about you humans," she muttered. Ryan chuckled. "We call it adaptability." The word echoed in her mind, adaptability, such a simple word. Yet it explained so much. She began setting up the new test. This time she wanted to measure human limits directly. She had prepared a neural endurance simulator, a chamber that challenged the body and mind at once. Most species could last no more than 2 minutes before the system shut down automatically. Lyra warned him, "If it gets too intense, say the word stop, understood?" Ryan nodded. "Understood," he said with calm confidence. The chamber door closed behind him. A deep hum filled the air as bright symbols lit up around the transparent walls. Lyra's eyes tracked every reading on the screen. Heartbeat, body temperature, brain waves. For the first minute, everything was normal. Then something unexpected happened. The readings began to climb rapidly. Higher, faster, stronger. The machine started to adjust automatically, increasing difficulty to match his performance. Lyra frowned, her fingers flying across the console. "This isn't possible," she whispered. "The chamber is pushing past safety limits." But Ryan stood inside calmly, eyes closed, breathing slow and steady. His mind resisted the mental pressure waves that usually broke even alien warriors. Lyra's team, watching from behind the glass, began whispering in disbelief. One alien scientist murmured, "No species should endure that intensity." Lyra ignored them, focused only on Ryan. She felt her chest tighten, part fear, part admiration. After 10 minutes, she finally pressed the control. The simulator stopped, the lights dimmed, and the door slid open with a hiss. Ryan stepped out, slightly sweaty but smiling. "That was relaxing," he said, wiping his forehead. Lyra stared at him in silence. Her hand shook as she looked at the readings. "Your neural resistance increased instead of dropping," she said softly. "That's not supposed to happen," Ryan shrugged. "Humans learn while fighting pressure." Her glowing eyes flickered with deep blue, the color of wonder. She had tested hundreds of species before, but none like him. Lyra walked closer, studying him. "Your body should be tired," she said. "It is," Ryan replied. "But that's when we feel most alive." Lyra's lips parted slightly, her curiosity overflowing. "You adapt even in exhaustion." "Like your body refuses to quit," Ryan nodded. "Pain is a signal, not a wall." That line struck her more deeply than she expected. It made her remember her own training as a scientist. Cold, logical, emotionless. But this human spoke of pain like it was a teacher, not an enemy. The door to the observation deck opened. 2 Varelian officers entered, their silver skin glinting under the white lights. They bowed slightly. "Dr. Lyra, the council has seen your data." Lyra looked at them sharply. "Already?" "Yes," one officer said. "They request immediate explanation. These readings challenge known biological laws." Ryan smiled faintly. "I guess I'm breaking your science." Lyra gave him a narrow look but couldn't hide her amusement. "This isn't a joke, Captain," she said. "They will question both of us. Then we'll give them answers," he said. Stepping closer to the glass window outside, the planet turned slowly, a massive blue sphere glowing like a dream. The officers left after collecting the data drives. Lyra turned to Ryan again. You don't understand what you've started, she whispered. Ryan met her gaze. Maybe you're the one who started it. Doctor. Lyra's eyes flashed violet, the color of frustration and curiosity mixed. Her world of logic was cracking, and she could feel it later in the quiet of the lab. She replayed his data again and again. Every reading told her something impossible. Every number felt like a challenge from the universe itself. She leaned back in her chair, her voice barely a whisper. What are you really, human? In the reflection of the glass, she saw Ryan standing behind her. He spoke softly. Just someone who keeps going when others stop. Her heart skipped once. An emotion her species was not used to feeling. As he walked away, she felt the first spark of something dangerous. Respect mixed with fascination. Lyra knew she couldn't stop now. The experiment had just begun. The stars outside shimmered quietly. Far away, unseen observers on other ships began recording her experiment. Rumors would soon spread across the galaxy. Rumors about humans and their strange, unstoppable nature, but for Lyra and Ryan, this was only the beginning. Neither of them knew that the next test would not just change science. It would change the fate of both their worlds. The research station floated silently through the black sea of stars. Lyra stood near the window, her silver eyes reflecting the distant suns. Ever since Ryan's last test, her thoughts had not been still for a moment. She had seen something that shattered everything she believed about biology. Humans were not just strong, they were unpredictable, adaptable, and somehow limitless. That thought scared her. It also fascinated her more than any discovery she had ever made. Lyra's people valued perfection and control, but Ryan seemed to draw power from chaos itself. The more she tested him, the stronger he became. She opened her data logs again. Every graph and pulse line looked impossible. If her superiors saw these numbers, they would think the system was broken. But it wasn't, it was him. Ryan was real, and he was beyond what any alien model could predict. A soft chime broke her thoughts. Ryan's voice came through the communicator. Calm as ever. Morning again, Doctor, he said. You sound like someone who hasn't slept. Lyra smiled faintly. I could say the same, Captain. I don't need much rest, he replied. Your tests keep me awake, his tone was teasing. But warm. Lyra's eyes flickered light blue. Amusement. She turned on the lab intercom. Report to the simulation deck, she ordered. I have something new prepared for you, he answered. A new challenge? Her smile deepened slightly. You could call it that. Minutes later, Ryan entered the simulation room. The walls shimmered with digital landscapes, mountains, oceans, storms, and fire. This was Lyra's ultimate environment generator, a place that could simulate the harshest planets known to her people. Even the strongest alien soldiers lasted only 20 minutes inside. Lyra stood behind the glass wall, her voice steady. This test will push your body beyond the physical, she explained. It's designed to test the limits of your survival instinct. Ryan looked at the swirling simulation field and stretched his shoulders. You really want to see what makes us human, don't you? Lyra hesitated before answering. Yes, she said softly. I want to understand how your kind keeps standing when logic says you should fall. Ryan grinned. Then you picked the right human. He stepped into the simulation. The glass door sealing behind him. The environment shifted instantly. The air turned icy, winds roared. Lightning flashed across dark skies. Ryan's breathing grew heavier, but his eyes stayed sharp. The system adjusted to his heart rate, raising difficulty with each passing minute. Lyra watched every number rise. Temperature stress, oxygen drop, muscle strain. Yet he kept going. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Her assistant started whispering in disbelief again. No being could survive that level of atmospheric pressure, one said. Lyra silenced them with a single look. She wanted to see how far he would go. Ryan stumbled once, fell to his knees, then stood back up. His voice came through the comms. Rough but clear. You call this extreme? Lyra leaned closer to the mic. Do you want me to stop the test? He laughed through the pain. Not a chance. Something inside Lyra stirred. Admiration mixed with a strange warmth she couldn't name. This man, this human, refused to break. He pushed himself further even when his body screamed to stop. And every second, her belief in alien superiority crumbled a little more. At the 30-minute mark, the alarms began to beep. The simulation had reached its highest safety threshold. End the test, one assistant warned. Lyra hesitated. staring at Ryan's silhouette standing strong in the storm. He wasn't just enduring, he was smiling. "End the test," the assistant shouted again. Lyra's hand hovered over the console, then pressed the button. The storm faded, the air cleared, and Ryan fell forward onto his knees, gasping for breath. She rushed inside. Kneeling beside him, his pulse was strong, his skin burning with heat, but his eyes were alive. "You could have died," she said. Her voice trembling, he looked up with a faint grin. "But I didn't." Lyra stared at him, speechless. Her kind never understood why humans risked everything just to prove they could. But now, watching him smile through exhaustion, she began to understand. Ryan stood slowly, his voice soft but confident. "You test limits," he said. "We break them." Lyra's glowing eyes met his, the color shifting to gold. Awe in that moment. She realized she was no longer observing a test subject. She was witnessing something far greater. The raw spirit of humanity itself, she whispered to herself. "Maybe that's why your kind survives everything." Ryan tilted his head. "What's that?" Lyra shook her head. "Nothing," she said, "just data." But inside, she knew it wasn't just data anymore. As Ryan left the chamber, the lab was silent. Her assistants avoided her gaze, unsure what they had just seen. Lyra turned to her screen one last time. The data line pulsed like a heartbeat, steady and strong, and below it, her system auto-labeled the file, Subject H01, Human, Limit Unknown. She smiled faintly, whispering, "Tomorrow, Captain Ryan, we go even deeper." Outside, the stars seemed to flicker in response, as if the universe itself was watching, waiting, to see what humans would do next. Word of Ryan's latest test spread across the station like fire through dry air. Every scientist, soldier, and technician was talking about the human who defied physics. Lyra tried to focus on her data, but she could feel every whisper that passed behind her back. Some called Ryan a miracle, others called him a mistake, and a few called him something far more dangerous, a threat. The Alien Council had summoned her for a meeting. It was rare for them to call a junior researcher. Rarer still to question her experiments. As she walked through the long silver halls, her reflection followed her like a shadow of guilt. She replayed Ryan's voice in her mind. "You test limits, we break them." Those words had shaken her more than any result on her screen. The council chamber was vast and cold, filled with glowing symbols and silent faces. 12 elders sat around a circular table, their silver robes flowing like liquid light. Lyra stood in the center, her hands clasped behind her back. "Dr. Lyra of Varel," the head elder said, his voice calm but sharp. "We have reviewed your latest human endurance data." Lyra nodded once. "Yes, Elder. You claim this human endured triple atmospheric stress, neural pressure and heat without failure," he continued. "That is not a claim," Lyra said quietly. "It is truth." The room went still. Truth was a dangerous word among the Varelians. It meant evidence that challenged tradition. Another elder leaned forward, his eyes glowing faint red. "Are you suggesting that this human surpasses our kind?" Lyra hesitated only a second. "In certain aspects, yes." A low murmur swept through the chamber like a storm. The head elder raised a hand, silencing them. "Do you understand the weight of your words, child?" he asked. Lyra swallowed hard. "I do, Elder." "Then bring us the human," he said at last. "Let us see this creature for ourselves." Lyra bowed. "As you command." Her heart pounded as she left the hall. She knew this was no simple invitation. It was a test for both her and Ryan. Back in the lab, Ryan was repairing one of the scanners he had accidentally overloaded. When Lyra entered, he looked up with a grin. "Did I break more science again?" She didn't smile this time. "The council wants to see you." Ryan's grin faded slightly. "That doesn't sound like a compliment." "It isn't," Lyra replied. "They think you're impossible." Ryan leaned against the console, his tone casual. "Then let's show them impossible." Lyra looked at him for a long moment, trying to understand how he could stay calm while facing the most powerful beings in her world. "Why aren't you afraid?" she asked. He shrugged. "Because fear doesn't help." Her glowing eyes softened. "Humans are strange," he smiled. "That's what makes us fun." When they entered the council chamber, the atmosphere grew heavier. Ryan stood tall in the center while 12 alien eyes studied him like a living puzzle. The head elder spoke first. "Human, do you understand where you are?" Ryan nodded. "In a room full of people who think I shouldn't exist." Some elders frowned, others smirked. "Your kind is young," the elder said. "Unrefined, emotional, dangerous." Ryan crossed his arms. And still standing, a ripple of unease moved through the room. Lyra watched closely, unsure if she should stop him or admire him. The head elder raised his voice. "You claim to survive conditions that destroy trained warriors." Ryan's tone stayed calm. "I didn't claim, I just did." The chamber lights flickered faintly as if reacting to his confidence. An elder whispered, "He carries a strange energy field." Lyra nodded. "It is not energy," she said softly. "It is will." The head elder's eyes shifted toward her. "You believe this human strength comes from emotion?" "Yes," she answered. "From belief, from pain, from hope, from everything we tried to remove from ourselves." The council fell silent. Ryan looked at her, his eyes steady. For a brief moment, there was no difference between alien and human. Only two beings standing against the unknown. Then the head elder spoke again. "Dr. Lyra, you are forbidden from continuing this experiment without permission." Lyra's heart sank. "Elder, please." "Enough," he interrupted. "This research ends now." Ryan turned slightly toward her. "Guess that means we passed the test," he said quietly. She gave a faint smile. "You have no idea what you've started?" Outside the chamber, Lyra walked beside him in silence. The corridor lights reflected softly off their faces. "They fear you," she said finally. Ryan laughed lightly. "Most people do when they don't understand something." Lyra looked down, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe I'm starting to understand too much." He stopped walking, turning toward her. "Then keep going," he said gently. "That's how humans learn. By walking through the dark until they find the light." For the first time in her life, Lyra smiled without meaning to. The glow in her eyes turned gold, curiosity and respect. As Ryan walked ahead, Lyra looked back toward the council chamber. She knew they would not let this end easily. There would be more tests, more challenges, more danger. But deep inside, a quiet voice told her that this human was more than a subject. He was the beginning of something that could change the galaxy forever, and far beyond the station, in the silent stretch of space. Signals began to travel between distant ships and hidden worlds. The aliens of the galaxy were already whispering a new legend, about a strange young human who defied limits, and the alien girl who dared to believe in him. Days passed since the council hearing, yet the tension inside the station never faded. The Varelian elders might have ordered the experiments to stop, but curiosity was a fire that would not die. Lyra's mind refused to rest. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the same question burning bright. What makes a human different? Ryan continued his daily routine as if nothing had happened. He fixed machines, helped the crew, and laughed at the nervous scientists who stared at him like he was a ticking bomb. Lyra watched him from across the lab, silently recording every movement, every heartbeat, every moment of calm strength. She told herself it was research, but deep inside she knew it was more than that. That evening, after the others had left, Lyra entered the lab alone. The lights dimmed automatically, the air was cold, and the hum of the machines echoed softly. She opened the hidden folder she had secretly copied from the council's database. Inside were thousands of years of alien genetic data. She began comparing it with Ryan's samples. Line by line, sequence by sequence, hours turned into the next morning. Her eyes glowed faint blue from exhaustion, yet her hands did not stop moving. Then suddenly the computer emitted a high-pitched tone. The analysis screen flashed red, revealing a string of data that made her heart skip a beat. "Impossible," she whispered. "Human DNA repairs itself faster under stress." She ran the simulation again, double-checking every number. The results stayed the same. The human body didn't just endure pain, it adapted because of it. Unlike Varelian cells that weakened under stress, human cells became stronger, more efficient, almost reborn. Lyra stared at the display in awe, her mind spinning with possibilities. Could this be the secret behind their endurance? Their madness? Their unbreakable will? The door behind her slid open. Ryan stepped in, carrying a small tray with 2 cups of warm tea. "You've been here all night again," he said softly. "You should rest." Lyra turned toward him, her expression halfway between excitement and disbelief. "Ryan," she said, "I think I found something." He placed the tray down and leaned beside her. The holographic strands of DNA floated between them like glowing ribbons. "This," she said, pointing. "This is your regenerative pattern." Ryan squinted. "Looks like glowing noodles to me." Lyra almost laughed. "No, listen, your cells don't just heal, they learn, they remember stress and adjust for it." Ryan tilted his head. "So, we evolve faster when we suffer?" "Exactly," Lyra said. "Your species uses pain like training. It teaches your body to grow." She looked up at him, eyes glowing gold with wonder. "You are built to survive everything, not by avoiding damage, but by embracing it." Ryan went silent for a moment, then smiled. "That sounds about right," he said. "We break, we heal, we get stronger. That's how it's always been." Lyra sat back, her mind racing. "If your kind continues evolving like this, there will be no limit to what humans can become." Her words were quiet, but they carried a weight she could feel in her chest. Before she could say more, the lab lights flickered. An alert sounded across the system. "Unauthorized data access detected." Lyra's screen flashed warning symbols in red. Ryan frowned. "They found out you copied the council files." Lyra's heart raced. "They'll shut down the lab, maybe even erase everything." Without hesitation, Ryan grabbed the data drive. "Let's move," he said. "Where's the nearest backup terminal?" Lyra stared at him, surprised by his quick decision. "Storage Bay C12, she said, and together they ran down the corridor. The alarms grew louder as they moved through the glowing hallways. Security drones turned toward them, their sensors flashing. Ryan picked up a metal rod from the floor and swung it into the nearest drone. Sparks flying across the air. Lyra covered her face from the light, her heart thundering. "You're insane," she shouted. He laughed. "No, just human." They reached the storage bay and sealed the door behind them. Lyra quickly inserted the drive into the backup core, fingers flying across the console. "Transferring data," she muttered. "Just a few more seconds." Ryan leaned against the wall, breathing hard but smiling. "You really think they'll let us walk after this?" Lyra looked at him with determination. "They won't stop me from discovering the truth." The transfer completed, and the core lights turned green. Lyra pulled the drive out and hid it inside a small compartment of her uniform. "This proof could change everything," she whispered. Ryan nodded. "Or start a war." For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Two beings from different worlds, standing on the edge of discovery and danger. Then Ryan spoke softly. "Whatever happens, you're not alone in this anymore." Lyra felt a strange warmth in her chest, something she had never felt before. She nodded slowly. "Then let's finish what we started." Outside the bay window, the stars drifted silently. But somewhere beyond them, other ships had already detected the alarm. Messages were being sent to distant councils and hidden commanders. A secret had been uncovered, one that could rewrite the laws of biology and life itself. And at the center of it all stood a human and an alien, bound together by curiosity, danger, and something that neither science nor logic could explain. The research station no longer felt peaceful. The corridors that once glowed with quiet light now pulsed with red alarms and echoing sirens. Lyra and Ryan moved quickly through the narrow hallways, their footsteps mixing with the hum of security drones. The air smelled of burnt circuits and ozone. It was the smell of fear and rebellion. Lyra clutched the hidden data drive against her chest. Inside it was proof that could change everything. Proof that humans were not just survivors, but something far beyond comprehension. The Council would never allow that truth to spread. To them, knowledge was control, and Ryan's existence broke their laws of control completely. They reached a service lift. Ryan slammed the button, and the doors opened with a mechanical hiss. As they stepped in, Lyra's communicator flashed red. She answered it quietly. A voice came through, cold, commanding, familiar. "Dr. Lyra, this is Commander Thal," the voice said. "You are ordered to detain the human and surrender the data immediately." Lyra froze, her fingers trembling. "Commander, please," she said. "You don't understand what this data means. Humans could be the key to—" "Enough!" The voice snapped. "You have gone too far. Your research threatens the balance of our civilization. Obey your orders." The connection cut off, leaving only static. Ryan looked at her, calm but serious. "Sounds like your people aren't too happy with us." Lyra nodded slowly. "They think you're dangerous." Ryan smiled faintly. "They're probably right." Lyra's lips curved. Even in chaos, she found his calmness almost unreal. The lift stopped with a jolt. The doors opened to reveal 2 armed guards waiting in the corridor. Their silver armor gleamed under the red emergency lights. "Dr. Lyra," one said, "step away from the human." Ryan raised his hand slowly. "I come in peace," he said dryly. The guards didn't laugh without warning. The first guard lunged forward. Ryan reacted faster than they could blink. He twisted aside, grabbed the weapon, and shoved the guard into the wall. A flash of blue light lit up the corridor as the energy baton discharged. The second guard tried to fire, but Lyra stepped forward, shouting, "Stop! Don't hurt him!" Her voice cracked through the noise like thunder. The guard hesitated for a second. It was enough. Ryan moved again, quick and precise. Disarming him with a single motion, both guards collapsed to the floor. Unconscious but alive, Lyra's heart raced. "You didn't have to—" Ryan interrupted softly. "I didn't want to, but they would have killed us." For a moment they just stood there. Breathing hard, Lyra looked at him. This creature who fought with instinct, but also mercy. Her people prided themselves on control. Yet this human had more control than anyone she knew. They hurried onward, reaching the docking bay. A single small ship was docked there, its lights flickering weakly. Ryan inspected it quickly. "Can it fly?" Lyra nodded. "It's old, but yes." He grinned. "Then it's perfect for escaping." As they boarded, Lyra took one last glance at the corridor behind them. She could hear distant footsteps, more soldiers. The ship's engines roared to life, the vibrations shaking the walls. "Hang on," Ryan said as he pulled the controls. The docking clamps released, and the small vessel shot into the dark void of space. The station grew smaller behind them, a fading shape of light and danger. Lyra sat beside him, watching the stars streak past like silver rain. Her voice came out soft, uncertain. "You just fought the most powerful government in this sector, and you're smiling." Ryan looked at her. "Where I come from, surviving is just another kind of winning." She studied him for a long moment. The way he looked at the stars, not with fear but with curiosity and defiance. It made her wonder if humanity's greatest strength wasn't their body or endurance. Maybe it was the fire in their hearts that refused to die. The console beeped suddenly. A red signal flashed across the display. "Incoming transmission." Lyra tapped it hesitantly. A holographic image appeared, showing Commander Thal's stern face. "Dr. Lyra, you have committed treason," he said coldly. "Return now, and your punishment will be minimal." Lyra stared at the image, her voice calm but defiant. "I won't let you erase the truth." "Commander," Ryan added with a grin, "tell him the human made you do it." Thal's eyes narrowed. "You think you can escape? We control this sector." Ryan leaned forward, his voice steady. "Then you'd better start chasing fast." Lyra ended the transmission and looked at him. "You just declared war," she said quietly. Ryan shrugged. Wouldn't be the first time. For a while, they sat in silence. The ship drifted between stars. Quiet except for the soft hum of the engine. Lyra finally spoke. "You know, I used to think emotions made us weak." Ryan smiled gently. "They do, sometimes, but they also make us unstoppable." She turned to look at him, her eyes glowing warm gold. "I think I'm starting to understand what it means to be human," she whispered. Ryan looked at her and said softly, "Then you're already one step ahead of most aliens." Outside the window, a small light appeared, a pursuing Varelian ship, growing larger every second. Lyra tightened her grip on the console. Ryan's hands steadied the controls, his voice calm. "Ready for another test, Doctor?" She smiled faintly. "Always." The stars bent around them as the ship jumped into hyperspace. Behind them, the Varelian fleet followed. Ahead of them, the unknown awaited. Dangerous. Beautiful and endless, this was no longer an experiment. It was the beginning of a revolution. Stars stretched like silver lines as the small ship tore through hyperspace. Lyra's hands trembled on the console, her heart racing faster than the engines. Behind them, the Varelian fleet pursued, a wall of light and fury spreading across the black sea of space. The alarms screamed inside the cockpit, but Ryan remained calm, his eyes fixed ahead. To him, fear was just another test, one more wall to break through. The stars snapped back into place as the ship exited hyperspace near a dying moon. The hull rattled, smoke rising from the vents. Lyra coughed, her silver skin glowing dim under the emergency lights. "We can't outrun them forever," she said breathlessly. Ryan smiled. "Then we'll make a stand." He opened a storage compartment, pulling out tools, wires, and what looked like an ancient power core. Lyra stared at him. "You can't fix this ship. It's too damaged." Ryan grinned. "Maybe, but I can make it explode at the right time." She blinked. "You plan to fight them?" He nodded. "Not fight. Show them what humans are made of." Lyra shook her head, torn between logic and instinct. "Ryan, if we fight, we die." He looked at her, his eyes calm and steady. "Maybe," he said softly, "but if we stop here, the truth dies too." His voice carried something deeper, not arrogance, but belief. The kind of belief that moved worlds and terrified civilizations. They worked together in silence, connecting power lines, transferring data, preparing the drive. Lyra could feel her thoughts changing with every passing second. She had spent her whole life searching for answers through numbers and equations. But this human taught her something no machine could measure. Courage. Real courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was standing tall in its shadow. Minutes later, the ship's radar beeped. "They're here," Ryan said quietly. Outside, through the viewing window, bright lights appeared, dozens of Varelian ships surrounding the moon like predators. A transmission crackled through. The familiar voice of Commander Thal filled the cabin. "Dr. Lyra, surrender immediately or we will destroy your vessel." Lyra hesitated, her hand hovering over the transmitter. She looked at Ryan, who simply nodded. She pressed the button and spoke clearly. "Commander Thal, you are chasing the wrong criminals." There was a pause, then his cold voice replied. "You stole forbidden data and allied with a primitive." Lyra's voice rose, sharp with emotion. "No, I found the truth you tried to bury. Humans are not primitive. They are evolution in motion." Silence fell on the line. Thal's tone hardened. "You are blinded by your experiment." Lyra looked at Ryan, her eyes glowing gold. "Maybe," she said softly, "but sometimes blindness leads to discovery." Ryan's hands moved across the control board, activating the power core. The ship began to hum with strange energy, a deep vibration that filled the air. Lyra glanced at him. "What are you doing?" He smiled faintly. "Giving them something to remember us by." Before she could respond, the ship shook violently. A sudden explosion of light burst from the engines. Not destruction, but transformation. The dying moon's gravity field absorbed the charge and released it in a massive wave of energy. The pursuing ships were thrown off course, their systems overloaded. Lyra shielded her eyes as the entire sky lit up in white brilliance. When the light faded, only silence remained. Smoke filled the cockpit, the power flickered, and everything went still. Lyra turned to Ryan. You saved us." He leaned back in his chair, exhausted but smiling. "Saved us both, I think," he said weakly. Lyra reached out and held his hand, a gesture her kind never used. Her voice trembled. "Why risk everything?" Ryan looked at her, his eyes soft but fierce. "Because that's what humans do," he whispered. "We risk it all for something worth believing in." Tears shimmered in Lyra's glowing eyes. Her entire life she had been taught to hide emotion, but now it felt like the most powerful truth of all. Outside the window, the stars began to move again. The silence of space felt peaceful, almost alive. Lyra stood and walked toward the console, staring at the infinite sky. "I used to think our species were the teachers," she said quietly. "But I was wrong. Humans are the lesson." Ryan chuckled softly. "A messy, stubborn lesson," she smiled. "The best kind." A faint signal appeared on the radar. The surviving Varelian ships were retreating. They had witnessed something their logic could never explain. Lyra transmitted one final message to the council. To those who fear the unknown, remember this, she said. Humanity is not chaos, it is possibility. As the transmission ended, Ryan leaned beside her. So, Doctor, what's next? Lyra looked out at the stars, her voice calm and full of wonder. Now, she said. We explored together. The ship drifted quietly through the cosmos. Two souls bound by discovery and defiance behind them. Whispers spread across the galaxy. Of the alien girl who defied her council, and the human who showed her the meaning of survival. They called it the human phenomenon, but Lyra called it something simpler, something purer. She called it hope.